having people who you can relate to without having to like say so much, but having them ask like all these absurd questions about like your work and everything they just already know and understand, that's worth a lot.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is Melrose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. So much of this industry tells us to shrink our bodies, our emotions, and our boundaries, but Rae Threat refused. From the MySpace era to international film festivals, Rae has spent 20 years changing that narrative. As a queer Thai-American artist and the head of creator outreach at AP Clips, Rae's work sits at the intersection of visibility, activism, and art. And today, we're going to get into what it really means to build longevity through community, art, and radical self-acceptance in an industry that still struggles to make room for all of it. Rae, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, I'm excited to be here too.
So I'm thinking to kick this off, what we should do is that maybe you can share a little bit about who you are and what your journey in the industry has looked like so far for those who are less familiar with you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Rae. I'm a photographer, producer, filmmaker. I've been in this space for since MySpace era. I met Ian MacKay from Vivid Alt. I was a nightlife photographer before all of this, and he had invited me to a bunch of Vivid Alt parties, release parties, and I'd met a lot of performers back then, and I'd only done nightlife photography at that period. So when Twitter started, I got on Twitter, X now, and one of the first tweets I posted was asking, hey, who wants to do an actual photo shoot? Because I've never really done it. I've only done nightlife. And the very first performer to respond was Dana DeArmond. So that obviously kind of opened the gates to all of this, being introduced to shooting adult stuff. And then one second performer I ever shot was Jiz Lee, who also kind of opened up my eyes to the queer space and queer porn, and that kind of directed me to where it kind of that early that early introduction into the queer space, into queer porn, learning about the struggles and how I can help navigate and also be a part of it and helping it. That's how it all started. And then, I think that's a good, that's sort of the truncated intro and how I got into here. And I've just been kind of in and out for the past 20 years.
That's amazing because you've been in the space 2 decades and, now going from that era of the industry to creator outreach with AP Clips, when you look back at these early years, I'm curious what drew you to the adult side of the work and also what kept you here for so long.
Just a community, honestly. I've established lifelong friendships, the people who I started, who I met when I first started, I'm still friends with. I'm currently in Berlin right now, and Jiz Lee, literally the second person I ever photographed. I'm here with them, and we're speaking on panels. We we have a film that just got that screening. It's literally it's the community that definitely that and the active. I feel that porn is also an act of activism, and that's also another point.
Yeah, for sure. I think that our community is uniquely special just in the sense that it's so loving, so, welcoming, at least in most circles. There's a lot of marginalized people that find themselves an adult and can find their corner and their people. And I think it's really special. At least this is something I've kind of found a place to call home in, where I don't feel like I have community a lot of other places. You've worn a lot of hats over the years, right? So artist, director, producer, photographer, community organizer, all the things. So how do you think moving through so many roles has kind of shaped your understanding of the adult industry?
It's just gave me like a lot of different perspectives to the whole ecosystem, like between the creators, crew, platforms, kind of like it makes me value like the collaboration and ethics just as much as the aesthetics, like the process of it, how it all goes together and how we can all support each other to kind of survive and then survive, period. So
Yeah. Yeah. And now with the work you're doing with helping creators through AP clips, like what does a day in your, in your world look like in this current role?
it's mainly a lot of it's one like it's a huge part of creative support, someone's problem solving, one part like connecting like people with other people. Like I'm there for like if you have an issue, a technical issue, or you need like some sort of like customer support, like support, or if you just have like questions, I'm there to answer like right away. It's that, and like and if I see a creator who'd like want to try a new platform where you get like a bigger percentage payout, and it's not really, and it's one of the last indie platforms, I'll reach out. That's part of my work too, be like, hey, sign up and you know support real indie.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of ways to do that these days. The indie sites are
No.
those far and few between. So I totally see that.
It's really guerrilla for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And you have spoken very passionately and openly about, things like body diversity, fat visibility, and kind of how that shapes both confidence and also connection. I want to talk about why you think visibility feels like it's kind of this radical act in adult spaces, because I think that that's really important. Important.
Because because porn still markets like the narrow kind of like Western European standards. And fat, queer, and disabled bodies still are challenging what's considered sellable. And so like existing as like, as a queer person, as a fat person becomes like an act of resistance, even in adult. And especially now, like, with trans visibility being under attack and queer, like LGBTQ rights being rolled back globally, not just like nationally, and showing up authentically, it's like isn't just like a personal thing anymore, it's political. So like particularly in porn, which I feel like also helps shape a lot of like our culture and society, is sort of important to like show up as authentic and visible as possible, because most people, I don't think they notice that like porn, like sex workers change a lot of things in the world. It all starts with like that act of activism. Like gay rights wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for a black trans sex worker. Like we start the activist, like we start the act and people follow. So
Yeah, a lot of what comes to be, and not even just on an advocacy side or activism side, but also even on a technology side, a lot of things start from porn. Like all roads lead
yes.
back to porn. Um, I really like that you emphasize, in things you've said publicly, especially that confidence and self-worth is an outcome of representation. How do you think that has shown up in your own work, whether, on set or behind camera? Because I don't think that that's often framed that way, that like confidence and self-worth is an outcome of representation. That I think people assume you're supposed to magically have confidence and self-worth, and then go into spaces that you're not historically welcome or seen in, which is a hard thing to do. So I'm curious on your thoughts with that.
It's not easy. Like it's not easy for me right now either, because I'm not a creator myself, but I could speak from like the production standpoint and what I see. And um people hold it in together because I know they like, at least personally for me, it's showing up to show up, because who else will? It's showing up in a space to be your like, to be the only like, only fat brown person in a room, or the only like, only queer person in a room or something, just so like you're visible. The more you introduce these kind of things, and it's not like, you're being I don't know, frick. It's like, sorry, I'm on the other side of the world, and my brain's kind of, but like,
No
yeah.
worries.
It's pretty simply like existing. So if they can see you and it's normal, so they don't like question like, why are you here? It's, well, I'm here. So
Yeah. I relate to this in a different sense also too, like from the business aspect, right? Just being a creator and trying to get into rooms with other executives or to be invited to the table when things are being discussed. Like I think that just showing up and being in the room is one of the first and one of the biggest initial battles because you are then making and holding space for yourself and adding voice to whatever conversations are being had. And it's like I think all the beginning steps are just that, are just being there and being a part of conversations.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's also like you also recognize that like at points you will be tokenized, and personally, I'm okay with that because like if I'm not there and if they don't tokenize me, like is there gonna be another like fat queer brown person that they're gonna listen to? Um, so that's another reason why I show up.
Yeah. That's a really good perspective because it's a double-edged sword to some degree because it's like you don't want to be the only, but then at the same time, if not you, then who? Because then you're also not accomplishing something. So it's an interesting point to make. Probably one that doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and it's okay. Like, you can be tokenized, but you could also state your boundaries.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
I'm curious, what does meaningful representation actually look like to you? Like, how would you define this?
Meaningful representation. I hate it. This is again a double-edged sword, and we're also just like talking about this recently, which is like not needing labels, but you need the labels. Like meaningful meaning like you could just like shoot some like you could just shoot like queer content without having to label it queer because it's just normal sex, but you have to because people look for those labels. You know, when it's not like treated like, oh, this is like like a special feature, or it has to be like it's part of normalized things, like you don't have to label it as like black queer, like BBW. That's meaningful to me, where it's just like this is just what's normal.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, it does. And you also made the good point, like in terms of a technology standpoint or like SEO, you also want to show up where people will be searching for you. So there's like that other
Yeah.
side of the sword. Yeah, that's a really valid point. There's also kind of this idea, I think, of, representation fatigue, I guess, and especially for creators who are constantly having to advocate for their own inclusion in places. So how do you navigate kind of, I guess, advocating for your own inclusion without burning out by, constantly asking for representation or just becoming disillusioned by it?
Oh my gosh. So sometimes I need to take my own advice, but like, I try to take breaks. And I lead on my community, like the community. We talk about it. We take like, and you need to also constantly remind yourself that you're not responsible for fixing everything. Um, and sometimes just like, existing authentically is enough for that statement where you don't have to go all out, but sometimes you do need to take a break. And I need to listen to advice.
I find like when I'm trying to, well, it can get so overwhelming when you're, especially in this day and age, because you have the media and the internet. So you know about all the like problems all over the world versus just your own super like hyper local ones. So like
Yes.
when you're trying to fight things and like actually have impact and make a difference, like it can be super exhausting because you also kind of can get, I guess that's to that point, disillusioned by it, where you're like, it's not even doing anything. Like I think in those moments, I try to like go back to like starting small and super local because at least then I'm like, I can see my impact. And like that is kind of validating to some degree?
Yeah, for sure. But it is definitely hard. Like, like when I say take a break, it's literally like, just turn off your phone and step away from your computer and try to like center yourself. But it is like, when you know all this is going on and it's like, there's some change that you want to see happen, but it definitely leads to a lot of burnout for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about, I feel like burnout many times over, just because it's something so many creators are up against. But you, with your experience, I mean, you've been around 2 decades. So I'm wondering if you have seen any patterns, I guess, come and go. Like, I guess I'm asking this in terms of like politics or platforms or kind of these overarching problems that we're up against, whether that's like age verification, payment issues, algorithms with social media. But there's with enough time on the horizon, enough experience, do you find that things go in cycles? They get better, then they get worse. They swing one way than the other, or do you feel like we're kind of in a really high pressure moment that can shape things?
I feel it's the latter. I've seen cycles. I think like, I've seen the sales of DVDs stop, but then the internet sales like rise and or go up. And I've seen like, people shift from like being managed to being self-managed. And, but right now I'm gonna be honest. I feel it's like a level of uncertainty, like, giving the political thing, but, I don't know. I'm still also very optimistic because there's one thing that like, sex workers are about and also like the industry, it's like resilience. So I feel like there is like I wish I could answer this. Really honestly wish I could. But I just
Yeah.
like I'm hopeful, but it's also super uncertain. Like
Yeah. No, I'm feeling that too. Just even with, especially the political climate of things, it's
yes.
so scary. Because I'm in a state that's super hard up against age verification, where we're being criminalized. But like
Yes.
for me here in Tennessee, like, I want to say this is cyclical, and like the pendulum, the legal will swing one way and be hyper conservative, and maybe 4, 8 years out, we're gonna swing the other way and be back to being liberal. But in the wake of like losing bodily autonomy and abortion rights, and then in the wake of now being so censored online, like it feels pretty scary. I'm not gonna
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, I wish I could answer this right now, but it's really uncertain. And I wish that, I am hopeful. I'm super hopeful because resilience is a thing. And, I've seen this industry pick itself up and like, I'm sure there's loopholes and, there's like a lot of like, like Free Speech Coalition has been lobbying so much against it. And, I know like, I'm optimistic about it. Like, I know there can be a change that can happen, and that we aren't going to go as backwards as we have been in the past few years.
Mhm.
So,
That's the hope too. I want to actually do a completely shameless plug right now because you did mention FSC. But you guys, if you're listening to this episode, we're doing a survey right now for adult creators for our State of the Creator survey. And the data from the survey helps us to kind of like map the adult space and show and demonstrate what's working for creators, what isn't, so you guys can make, business decisions, but also so we can take that data and those numbers to Congress to lobby for policy changes in support of sex workers. So if you're interested in taking that survey, we really, really need insight, especially from creators, marginalized creators that are hard to reach, hard to represent. We want to make sure their voices are getting heard. So if you do hear this either live or on the podcast, DM, any Sex Work CEO channel, ask for the link to the survey. Please take the survey. It helps us out tremendously. And everyone who takes the survey, we're donating $15 to any sex worker org that we listed that's working and collaborating with us. So please, just shameless plug, go take that survey. Ask us about it. We will get it to you. That aside.
I love that plug. I love that plug.
Oh,
I
yes.
love it.
That plug, you hopefully make some impact.
Yeah, no, seriously, that is. It's needed. And like, yeah, give me the link too.
Absolutely. I will.
Um,
You have a unique advantage in terms of a perspective and a lens with your work at AP Clips. And I want to kind of just dig into that a little bit. When you have access to seeing these smaller indie platforms, and you can see how those platforms help creators maintain some semblance of stability or autonomy compared to some of these mainstream platforms, obviously. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. Like, how important are these indie platforms compared to these mainstream monsters like OnlyFans and the rest? And what difference is there really?
well, we prioritize like autonomy, autonomy. Oh my God, I can't pronounce the word, but we prioritize.
Autonomy.
Yeah. And transparency. Like we are transparent about all this stuff. We don't have like, we're not like some mega corporation. Like we're not secretly owned by like, some like big corporation in the middle of nowhere. And like indie platforms like us, we allow creators to control their content, the pricing, the image, without treating them like disposable data. We have people, and like I'm a live person on the other side. If you reach out to me, I'm there. We try to help like as much as possible, and we take like suggestions. We take suggestions like and try that word just like totally disappeared. I'm like, we actually listen to your suggestions and we'll try to actually like, like
Implement all the changes.
yes, that's the word I'm using. I'm trying to look for. Sorry, yeah, implement. I am also jet lagged.
Oh, you poor
Yeah,
thing.
so like things like someone had messaged like when a creator had messaged me like something about like not wanting to display their age, and I understand that because that's also like as part of being a creator, sometimes you want to add that mystique or you don't want to reveal your age. Period. And we're like, you know what? I understand that. Let's see what we could do. And literally within like maybe like less than a day, we changed that feature. So that's the thing that you won't see on bigger platforms, like, getting a suggestion and getting it implemented within like 24 hours, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because with these big monster companies, there's so much red tape too, even just to move the needle.
Yeah. So I think that's that. And like, yeah, we allow you to link to other sites. We understand. So like, we have our own little ecosystem in like the industry, and like allow you to be like, we allow you to do what you want with your content. That's another thing. And we also do 70 to
Yeah.
80% payouts, which I think other people like allow, but like, we're for as an indie platform, that's like we're giving a lot. So, like,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure, for sure. We kind of talked a little bit earlier about community, and you have done a lot of work with Sunday Fair. So I'm wondering if you
Yes.
can tell us about that project and kind of how it came together and what makes those like grassroots spaces feel so different than other industry events.
Well, Sunday Fest is Casey Warner. They started it maybe a year or so before I kind of came in, and I feel it's because it's being a part of like past organizations that I have been a part of, and adult like within the adult industry and also like non-adult. This has been like they like Casey kind of listens to like a lot of input, and they'll implement like it's the same thing what we do but it's basically a lot of like legwork from everyone involved, and it's like respecting each other's opinion and like listening in and weighing in like what's best for the organization. And it's a very intentional space for creators to connect to. That's one of the main things. And there's no like, I will say that, OKC runs it, but there actually is no hierarchy, and there's like no pressure. And it's just like creators all like, it's a space for adult industry people to kind of just like connect and without any pressure, and kind of just like use it as a space for community itself.
hmm what kind of things happen at the Sunday Fair? So, like for creators listening who have no idea what this is about and maybe don't
Right.
understand what values are going on there, like what value it
Yeah.
brings.
Well, there's three different events that Sunday Fair puts on monthly. The first one is like the Sunday Fair, which is how it started, which is like just people hanging out, like connecting with other people, doing those marshmallow roast things.
Oh, I love
What are
that.
they called? Yeah, just like just hanging out. There's no agenda. It's not a need for networking. It's there just like show up so you can meet other people and connect and not feel alone in the space. And then the Sunday Fair Wellness Day that branched out. AP Club sponsored the very first one, and it's more like it's wellness. You will do like yoga. We'll have like granola bar, avocado toast bar. Uh, Frick. Why is my brain so dead? But like that's sound baths. We do sound baths.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's just like a day just like to center yourself, and it's wellness. And then and hikes. They love hikes too. But and the third event that they throw is the Aether Party, which has become like one of that debuted during XBiz last year, which was like it's a nighttime party event. It usually happens either downtown or Calabasas, and it's like it's a nighttime event where it's like there's vendors and there's it's just like a little like nighttime party thing, and there's also like a room if you've been tested to like, have fun if you needed to have fun, but we don't really advertise that as much because it's for creators only, pretty much. Oh, and that's the other difference is with Aether, it's also open to the public.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah.
And like with organizing community events, like what are some things you've learned that maybe you wish more creators understood about just like collaboration and mutual support?
Collaboration isn't just about what you gain, it's about how you show up for others and for yourself. And then knowing that, people thrive when they feel useful to each other. And then it's like in our spaces, that's what I learned. And like Sunday fairs thrive a lot because like everyone is useful for, like, we all help each other. That's like another thing I've noticed. And I'm gonna give like, Sunday Fair that props that like everyone in Sunday Fair are friends, and they all like, we all mutually support each other in like outside of the organization itself. So that's another thing that's kind of different, which I
I
like.
love that. Yeah, I love that. Because I've never been to a Sunday fair, and this is something I've
Oh,
been
should.
wanting to get to. I really, because well, 'cause I'm not in LA, I'm in Tennessee, so,
Yeah.
so I'm not just out there, sadly, as much as I'd like to be. But are you guys have any Sunday fair events that are like tail end of like an Expo or like some other event that's
Yes, they
around?
definitely, they definitely try to time it around, particularly when we know that a lot of creators are coming in from out of town. So since they're based in LA, I think the next one they're gonna try to do like, between XBiz and X3, XBiz Week and X3. So
Okay.
that was like a good sweet spot last time. And I think they might aim for that again too. And then, they did go out of town for Folsom, but unfortunately, I was here for Venus, so like Berlin.
Um,
But yeah.
well, good to know,
So they
because
do.
then January for sure.
Yeah, come, you'll love it.
I will. I'm excited. No, I need community because especially where I live, like I'm in the Bible Belt. So while I have like a lot of
Um,
online community now, or when I go to conferences, I feel like I have, found my home. But like in the general day to day, there's nothing like available local to me. So I will
and you
definitely
need
take you up on that.
that.
I do need that.
Yeah, you
Oh my
need
God.
that.
You have no
Yeah, it's
idea.
just it's not just like, it's having people who you can relate to without having to like say so much, but like, with having them ask like all these absurd questions about like your work and everything they just already know and understand. That's worth a lot, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it is. It is. So just to feel seen, you know?
Yeah.
I want to shift. I want to go into a little bit of your background with like visual art and filmmaking because I think that it's easy to notice that that can clearly inform how you see adult work, just not as just performance, but as art specifically. So I'm wondering like how do you bring that, I guess, creative lens to your current projects today?
Um, I started off like doing portraits, so I try to frame it all as a portrait, like a still image, and work from there and see like, oh my God, I can get really artsy with this stuff. But like,
Do it. Do
uh,
it.
I'm also like, I can do that, and the words are there, but they're not forming because I'm still drugged. I
Yeah.
don't think I've mentioned that enough. But it's just like the lighting, the storytelling. We were also just talking about like, so when I started, I did a lot of like gothy dark images, and that was kind of like my signature style. And we were just talking about like, Hume's paradox of painful art, where people like seeing all these like dark images, but they won't like normally want to see that. But I don't want to get into that. But it's like, so. I just like it's art. Art is advocacy. That's how I treat it. It's like I see it as like, what is this powerful image? If it's gonna be moving, how will it stay powerful? What, like, how will it look beautiful at the same thing? Like, you can shoot as much as you can in a hotel. And I do that too. I will shoot content for people like in a hotel room, just not blank walls. But it's like when I want to get creative, it's like how, like, how can this space look more beautiful, like what can draw this in where people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that's a porn. That's actually like, it looks like an indie, like, art house film or something.
Mhm.
And I've been shooting with foreplay films, and that's like the aim that we have, like we want to go for. It's like I try to capture like it as art because it is. It's like erotic art.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that you say it that way. So I have a very serious question for you because in my I'm asking for your experience, but in my experience, there is
Mm-hmm.
some kind of like line to be walked with your own like artistic integrity and content that will sell. Because for me, I will, spend 4 hours or 6 hours on a side quest filming something I think is cool and beautiful and, cinematic and like my aesthetic and my vibes,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll fucking flop because that's not what my audience really wants. They want like amateur, grainy cell phone, poorly lit, feels very real. Someone just hit record. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, this is my like art that I want to create. And then there's this balance I'm trying to walk of like
Yeah.
creating what will sell to the mass market or my general audience. Like, how do you balance that integrity, I guess, is the question.
All right. This might be like I don't know, this sounds really weird, but like I don't usually put my name on things like that. So like, because I know it's not about me either. Like usually I'm as like the producer, as the person behind camera, you don't get credited. I'm just like paid to shoot it and that's okay with me. And I understand like, some things like you just mentioned, like that's not what you're known for. And it kind of sucks like when you want to branch out and like, do something creative and all that stuff. But what your audience wants is like, what they know your brand for, which also like it's kind of cool that they support you in that way, but also kind of sucks because it also like, pigeonholes you in that. But it's also like there's always a market for authenticity and who you are and how you started, that grainy, like what you were talking about, like your grainy work and stuff like that. Like if that's how you started and that's how they found you, usually like, your fan base goes for what they like found you like. I could frame the sentence better, but your
Well, I
audience
think
usually
what
like
I'm understanding is like what they found you for is like a core thing, but maybe you can test and branch out kind of vibes.
yeah, kind of. Yeah. And then, and also like, not everyone needs to chase trends either. Like I know a lot of people try to like, um, get creative because it's trendy, but if it's not you, your audience will see that too. And that's probably like a part of the reason why it can flop too. It's like if you're doing it because it's trendy and rather instead of like, something that you actually authentic like you really actually want to do as an artistic like, in an artistic way because your fan like they'll support what you want to do rather than like what you're doing to try to sell. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, no, it
I
does. It totally does. Totally does. But you mentioned something like authentically you, and I want to touch on that because, in this day and age, it can be, I think, challenging to find like your voice or your authenticity in an algorithm kind of driven world. And we mentioned trends a second ago. Is
Mhm.
there, I guess, do you have any advice for someone that's struggling to be authentic or to find kind of their authenticity in a world that's so online now?
I have the worst advice for this, but it's just like don't overthink it. Just be you. Sometimes, because that also opens the gate to like not censoring yourself because, like being you. I hate that everything is sort of like it is a double-edged thing. It's like you can be authentic to yourself. People will support you, and those are the people that matter because they will support you throughout like all that you're doing. Because I'm not like I've mentioned I'm not a creator myself, but I've had like fans who followed me throughout all these years, and they followed each step by step because I've just been myself, and I've just always like said what was on my mind, or like shared what was on like. But there are points where like um if you can't share too much about your personal life because there's parts where like um like they don't want to know that you have a boyfriend or something, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
you know. Like I don't know, so there's parts where like you have to censor for your own privacy and protection, but like basically being yourself, like the fact that I can't speak full sentences right now, it's being myself, but people like here's thank you for being my friend and supporting me. you know?
This is the life. I mean, the jet lag is real, travel is real, the conferences, the conventions, the expos are real. Like that's
Yeah,
all
bro.
really part of it.
Yeah, no, I study at Expos Amsterdam, and I'm so jealous that you got a break because I've just went from Expos Amsterdam to like Venus to now Porn Film Festival Berlin, and I've only had like 2 or 3 weeks like in LA at times, and then like those weeks are like packed with work. So I've just been on it since like Amsterdam, since you saw me.
It's insane. And this is the thing, like, because everyone was asking me after, because I did Amsterdam, I did TES Prague, but
Yeah.
I also took like a few days between and I went like off grid to Croatia just to see a country I'd never
Oh, I
seen
love
and
that.
try to like navigate by myself as an American that doesn't know how to travel. But that break was so important for me. And also, like, I was invited to, Venus Berlin. Everyone's asking if I'm going to go. And I was invited to Porn Film Festival. And I was just like, you guys, I can't be away from home for like a month or two. That's crazy. Like I got a 2 weeks max
It
on my
is.
travel. Like, no, who will feed
No,
my animals?
it is, but also like, when you're indie and you're doing guerrilla style stuff, like, you know, you gotta show up to like
Yeah.
you gotta show your face. There's no big corporation backing me. It's like, me and like the indie platform that I'm showing up like, and it's more meaningful for me to be at these smaller conferences and show it like meeting other like, indie queer creators and stuff, because that's usually what I hate to say, like, I don't hate to say this, I love to say this, but it's also like sometimes the most impactful sort of like a
Yeah.
relationship networking building that you can have in these smaller spaces. Because like, even though like we're all small, like, oh my God, I'll say something really cliche, but it's like together we have a bigger voice.
It's true though. That's so true. But also those like intimate, more smaller like connections or like I guess conferences, like you
Yeah.
get more FaceTime with people to go deeper, I feel, versus
Yes.
like Amsterdam can be so go, 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 and you're getting like, a couple of minutes to chat with the person before someone approaches you and pulls you away or whatever. And it can be hard to go deep with those,
Yeah,
environments.
absolutely. Especially when like, a lot of people also show up for the collaborations and like, being like I'm like in Amsterdam, I was shooting like 4 scenes. I shot 4 scenes, and I also had to moderate a panel, and there was like really no time to really have like those like huge one-on-one moments. Like I'll have a coffee for like 10 minutes. I had a meeting that was literally like, we're like, okay, let's time this 20 minutes because we have to go to other things kind of deal. So you can't
Yeah.
really like just relax. But like here at PFF, it's just kind of like it is like, speaking of the community, it's like we're having like breakfast and we're networking. We're having an industry dinner where we get to connect with each other, and like there's no time limit really. It's just like you're just hanging out, and there's no pressure to like keep creating, because like when you're surrounded by all these other creators, like particularly ones who are like more popular and this and that, you feel like you need to catch up, which you really don't need to. You don't need to burn yourself out. It's just like, just do your thing. But when you're around them, then you just like want to like, be at their level, or you want to like collab with to get to their you want to just keep collabing. It also burns you out. But I feel like when you're in an environment where you gotta just chill out, it's so much more, it's better, it's more meaningful, you get a lot more done in the long run.
Yeah. I'm curious, just like as a tangent, or I guess a side note, because you're doing so many shows, like so many conferences, how do
Mhm.
you stay on top of your like routine everyday work? Because for me, like, and because I think people just assume that I'm like this, like I am, I would say I'm a very highly disciplined person and I'll do things, but I do a lot of my stuff really batched and like in advance to account for a show where I know I'm going to be
Yeah.
chaotic and offline and unreliable and like like I'm not someone who's like great at going to a conference, making time to check my email in the morning in the hotel room. Like I'm not routine when I'm out of my routine. Is that something you're challenged by, or is it
I
become better for you?
definitely challenged by I try to do that, and then it's just like you miss certain things where it's just like I also need to be like on the support line. So I have to be on call. So sometimes like it's either like, you're in a meeting and you answer one DM, but then you miss the post. And like some things I also learned, like I was staying with a friend in London who's doing YouTube stuff, which is like these apps also, like if you post them, like schedule them, like um they will not show up as often as the ones that are like posted in real time, because they're trying to measure you, and also like they want to show the content that you post if you're spending more time on the app itself. So that's another thing I learned. So it's just like, so I have to sorry. So I have to be on like Twitter posting in real time. But then it's just like, no, I have to help someone, like, an issue, or I have to, like, I'm about to speak on a panel. It's really, I won't say it's easy. I try to schedule it. I try to stick to a routine. I'll do my emails first. I'll do, like, I'll do some social media, but our account just got suspended on Instagram, so that sucks.
We lost an IG not long ago too. I feel you. Oh, I feel you.
Yeah, so I'm like, how do I appeal this process? I don't know. Who has a hookup? I don't know. But I try to wake up as early as I can to do this, and then, having a routine is definitely important to do this. Right now, my routine is chaotic because of all these different time zones and, like, the amount of transit I've had to do. So it's not really been the best. So, like, asking me this question right now at the worst time.
While you're living it.
I don't know how to be on top of it right now because I'm not on top of it. But normally there is a routine and schedule.
Yeah. No, that's how I feel too. Because, like, people ask me about these things, and I'm like, listen, like, I understand that creators are looking to me for some answers, but I'm like, I'm just a girl, guys.
I'm just like, I'm one person, but I know I could wear many different hats. I know I could do this, but, like, when it's in conference time, when you're at, like, at these industry things, it's a whole different kind of schedule because you're trying to, like I said, I need to take my own advice, but like, you're trying to show up as much as possible. But
Yeah. No, I just wanted to ask that because I'm like, if there is any insight to pull from that, I would try to apply it. But it's just hard. It's a different ball game when you're in that mix of things. Okay, I want to get back into that.
Yeah, sorry. I was gonna be like, I'm also the worst person to ask because I'm, like, awesome. Like, I'm not just doing one thing. I'm, like, managing, like, 5 different other things. Like, besides being, like, a career outreach at AP Clips, I'm also, like, I'm Rae Threat, the producer. Like, I'm also shooting, like, scenes, and I'm also, like, and I work for, like, 2 or 3 different other, like, production companies and stuff. So it's just like. So
but that's exactly why you're the right person to ask. No, that's why you're the right person. Because that's, like, with me, like, something you said earlier too stood out to me. Well, first off, let me just shout out, like, my amazing team here at SWCEO who makes it look like I'm the most disciplined, most on time, most, punctual person ever, because they make me look and appear super consistent and omnipresent because I have such a great team in place. So, like, shout out to them. It wouldn't be possible without them. That's Bryn, my CEO sidekick here, but also, like, everyone that's contributed, Julie, Selena, Sheena, Jacqueline, everyone that's ever come into contact with us, Kevin, like, all of them. Aside from that, though, you had said something earlier that, I hope I don't blank on it now, but it was the posting in real time. This is something I'm finding, is a challenge for me. There's stuff we put out that's really, we're scheduled 30 days ahead. And then there's the little things in real time, like if there's a news story to capitalize on, we try to jump on it or whatever it might be. Just information that maybe creators really need to know, like AV laws or, like, whatever. So it does seem like there's a balance of, like, being ahead and in routine, and then the being able to capitalize on moments as they come and informing people in real time. I'm off topic. This is not where I was trying to get back to, but when it comes to running multiple businesses, because, like, I'm a creator as well. Like, on my side, I'm Melrose, and then I'm SWCEO, and then I'm SWR Data. I mentioned the survey company, or a data market research company I have. We're running that survey right now. And then there's also GPTs. Like, there's all these different hats. And when you were talking about being authentic a little while ago, one of the things you said is, like, obviously you have to draw some lines. You don't want to be open maybe about your relationships or something online because it could impact business one way or the other too. And maybe it's not what your fans really want to see of you to that extent, but they do want to get to know you and relate to you and feel like they can access you to some degree. Like, it takes me back to this authenticity conversation because I find that, I really struggle to be authentic. And maybe people are going to be like, what is she talking about? But, like, it's hard to show my fans or give them more access to me because so much access to me is, like, SWCEO, which is, telling creators how to build businesses, which is so irrelevant to my fan and audience base. And, like, also could be counterproductive. Like, they don't want to know what tactics and, like, sales psychology I'm using on them. Like, that might even be offensive. Like, so I really struggle with being authentic online because it's like I feel very compartmentalized, and
Mhm.
there's so much I can't show maybe my fan base or that I specifically keep for my creator base. And like, I think on the authenticity spectrum, there's probably creators that struggle with that in different ways. That's just, how I relate to it.
Mhm.
But when you said like just being yourself and like how you're showing up today, like just you're showing up as you are with the capacity you have, with the jet lag and the real life travel and the real life work, um, is there advice, I guess, that you would say pertaining to specifically social media? Like, obviously, there's places to draw boundaries, and you kind of touched on that. But when it comes to being authentic, like in your content and filming and creation, like what would you advise there? Because like even for me, like it gets easy to like fall into the trend thing, or it gets easy to like see what everyone else is posting on social and think that that's what you're supposed to be posting, versus like listening to your own creative intuition at times, because there's so much media, there's so much consumption out there. It's like, you're
Yeah.
drowning in it, so it can be so hard to intuitively know, like, or hear yourself. I guess it's even hearing your creative
Yeah, and
voice.
it's just don't overthink it. Don't don't try to oversell it. Don't try to overdo any of that. Like, if you want to create something that is meaningful to you, yeah, there should be some sort of business mind to it, but it's also like create what you want to create, and if it's real to you, then you like your supporters will support it. But if you're trying to force a sell, if you're trying to follow that trend, like I said earlier, they're not going to fall for it. They're not gonna, they know that you're just trying to follow a trend. That's not who you are. But for the most part, I see it a lot too. I see this, actually, I just saw this yesterday. Okay, I'm not gonna name names, but now it's like, huh. No, there's two shoots yesterday, but I was on set for one of them. And it was supposed to be a very easy, like, 5-minute content thing. And somehow, yeah, don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be so artsy. It doesn't have, like, cinematic isn't like really a, if you go to film school, that like your film teachers, your film professors are going to hate that word cinematic, by the way. Because it's
Really?
not, it's like, it's not an aesthetic. Everything is cinematic. It's just the way you see, like,
When I think
um,
cinematic, I think like a gimbal. I think like really good studio lighting. I think, very depth of
yeah,
field-y,
that's like,
but it's
that's
not the thing.
studio work. That's more
You're
like,
just like, that's just a good camera, Mel. Like,
no, that's just a good setup. It's not cinematic.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not like, I know.
No, I'm learning from you. This is great.
Yeah, I just think like sometimes you just don't need to overthink things and just like see like if like simple is always the best sometimes too. All these years of like production, like when you also be organized about it too. You can, um, yeah, when you shoot stuff, like, make a list of all the things that are important to shoot, like your shot list, like, the inserts that you will need for those shots. Like, wait, what was the question? Me up
Oh,
that
we were talking about like the creating authentically, but now we're kind of going on a tangent that I actually want to really follow. When you're doing, because okay, I'm a solo creator, so I'm just like milking your brain at this point. I hope people get value
No
out of this
worries.
episode. I am when I'm shooting, I don't necessarily have a shot list, but
Okay.
I've done, only two, but two studio girl scenes with Vixen, and so I understand what they need to have a shot list. When you're talking about that, are you talking like tight shot versus wide angle shot, like for the storytelling aspect?
Um, it really depends. Like, usually like when you have an idea in your head of what you want to speak with what you want shot, and like if you want to tell the story, it usually helps to have a wide shot, and then like when you want to get closer to subject, then medium close up, blah blah blah. But it's just like the shot list I'm talking about is like what will build the story. You can't just have someone enter the room and suddenly they're coming through the front door, but suddenly somehow they're in the backyard. Like you need to like to
Mhm.
establish how they got there, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of shot list. Like, all right, so you have to have like, oh, they're entering, and then, oh, so there's an interaction like somewhere here, that'll lead them to that. Like, it has to create the story of how point A became point B to point C, and that's this establishing the storyline of that,
Right.
and then when I say about other shot lists, about the insert shots and this and that, for editing purposes and like, to make things cinematic or like, storytelling part. Like small little things where it's just like getting a close-up shot of, like, say, like, it's like someone glancing over at their partner, and the close-up shot of their eyes, as like, that is like, that could be part of the shot list. It's just,
Mhm.
or insert, like, for editing purposes, where it's like, okay, it's a medium shot, and then you just see like the interaction, and then you just close up to, like, like their facial reaction kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. Those small little things that people don't think about, because, like, usually, like, you'll shoot on your cell phone, or you'll have like one camera and this and that. And this is also doable. One camera just takes time. And sometimes people don't want to take that extra time to do it. But, you could shoot the same scene, or the same, like, setup twice with, like, one camera,
Yeah.
where it's just like you get the wide medium shot, and then you get the close-ups as just the same actions.
Yeah.
Um, Sorry, does this turn into a phone class?
No, no, I'm a legal bind. It's just so interesting, and I think most creators obviously don't go to film school, so to have the insight is
Oh, I neither
so
did I.
valuable.
I just
So
worked
much.
there.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, also, like, a lot of people don't realize, and I can't use their name because it was part of the contract that I can't use that for promotional purposes. But I worked at one of the biggest, most well-known, like, film institutes, conservatories, for like 3 years.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
You're
So
like a wealth of knowledge.
it's not, it's experience. That's the thing. It's like being street smart versus like book smart. So sometimes it's a mix of both, but also knowing, like, I fucked up a lot, so I know how to, like, tell you what to do.
Yeah, yeah. You've done all the mistakes. Uh, So funny. I want to touch on one more thing before we kind of
Okay.
wrap up. You have talked about, ethical, community-driven porn and
hmm
how it creates a space for authentic expression, since we're on the topic of authenticity. What does that look like behind the scenes? Like, what makes a shoot or production truly ethical to you?
When you listen to the creators, or
You make everything sound so easy.
well, I feel like everything I work on for on my own, like, like, as Rae Threat, as a Rae, like, as my production, this and that, everything's collaboration, where I will, like, ask, like, if this is something you want to shoot. Like, it's also the consent, the whole, yeah, I mean, a lot of people practice consent, but it's also like what makes it ethical is, like, listening to, like, what the creator wants to do, what the
Yeah.
performer wants to do. It's also like putting them, like, it's at the end of the day, the even though everyone's working on the film, the people that matter the most are the performers themselves, and checking in if they're okay with it. And I think that's, like, one of the most important things, from, like, in terms of ethical, and also, like, for me, is making sure that this is what a performer wants to do.
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
easy.
Yeah, you really, I love how much you can simplify things. Because even when I was going back to the authenticity question, you're like, it's just like being who you, like, you simplified it so quickly. I'm like, oh yeah, you said that already. And I've already gone back and complicated it. Like,
Yeah,
in
it's
real
just,
time.
that's a lot of see, that's a lot, like, people overthink, overdo, and it's just like, I think it's also because I'm coming from a different set of lens, where, I've all like, I don't need to be, like, I chose not to be perfect, like, I don't need, like, I'm still fat, I'll always be brown. There's always, they will look at, like, people will always look at me a different way, and they won't, like, they won't acknowledge certain things. And I won't change myself just to fit in. I would rather, like, disrupt it and be like, why can't this be? And it's just being me, and it's just, being true to your beliefs, and, like, try and represent it, because, at the other end, like, if you don't speak up, then, like, other people who also look like you, who, like, they who's going to speak up for them. And okay, going off subject again, I just feel like it's very important to this, because it also is like, sometimes representation is, like, a matter of survival too, because I've heard, and I've experienced firsthand, I've seen it too, like, how much it's important, especially in queer spaces, when they see other people who can, like, who they relate to on screen, because sometimes it's like, so there's one person that I was doing a art project with, and I was documenting how, like, your culture and your environment, all this stuff kind of influences who you are. And they were just talking about how depressed they were, and how, like, they were very, very, very depressed, to the point where, like, there's a couple times where they tried not to, like, live anymore, up until a point where somehow they stumbled upon queer porn, and they saw, like, they saw trans porn for the first time, and they were just like, wow, like, people like me exist, like, people, like, I can relate to that person, because they're not, like, they're not thin, blonde, straight, and this and that. And it's just like, there's actually, like, um a queer person on that side, and also a trans person on that side. And, like, now they're like, they've transitioned, and it's trans porn saved their life, pretty much. And if that didn't exist, if you didn't, like, choose to shoot it, because that's something, that you've never seen before, you just have to, like, just existing can also help another person exist. Does that make, yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, it makes perfect sense. And it's so true. Like, I think it's a very human experience to look for people like you out in the world. And it's probably based on some like reptile brain survival instinct, like find your community, find your clan, kind of find your
yeah,
tribe thing. But like seeing more people like you, whether that's on screen or in your community or in magazine, whatever, like just seeing people like you is important to you understanding the value and that you belong in the world. Like it's that reflection of seeing yourself and other people is really important, I think, to just humans in
yeah.
general, to
And
feel
that's
safety.
And that's exactly how you can thrive in this career too, because, like, that whole sense of community, where you find other people who you relate to, even if it's not about, like, like, the actual representation of physical, like, physical representation, where it's just like finding other people who also do sex work, finding, like, connecting with that, like, not feeling so alone, and, like, just having other people who can relate to you, just to talk to. I mean, that's like talk therapy itself. Well, it's not licensed therapy, but you know what I mean? It's like that
Yeah.
sense of having a community is literally essential for, like, I wouldn't be in this for so, like, as many years as I have been, if I didn't have that little circle, and I wouldn't have expanded to other, like, other, my career wouldn't have expanded if I didn't meet other like, other people who also, like, I, like, synced with, so
Hmm.
that's, like, one of the most important things of how, like, how you can actually, like, last in this community. Like, don't burn bridges,
Yeah.
like, don't be an
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing, like people, because I cammed specifically like as my like my primary kind of vertical in adult for 8 years before I did anything else, and especially when I was in the cam career, and things were a little bit different. I mean, I've been doing this 14 years, so things were a little different back then too. But I got online, did my work, tried to make my money, logged off, and like that was it. I didn't go to conferences, I didn't go to community events, I didn't do anything with my community, and I was very isolated where I was. And I know when I did that for 8 years and I achieved maybe some financial success, I was out of survival and I wasn't doing well for myself. But until I went to conferences, I met other creators, I started to form communities. My career exploded after that because you have these relationships and this networking
Yeah.
and this support system too. Like it's such a almost, I don't want to frame it this way because it sounds like shallow, but it's also a business hack. Like when you have
Yeah,
a network, like your career will change. It really will. That
pretty
community.
much. Like, it's like when you have a support system, it's kind of, you choose your family, you choose your work family.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You mentioned the word longevity too, and I think that you've built longevity by really staying rooted in like art and community and also purpose. For a newer creator who's gonna, listen to this and who probably feels lost in the noise, because I've mentioned already in this episode, I feel lost half the time. What is the first step you would suggest toward building something sustainable instead of just reactive? Because I get in that cycle too, where it's like, that's when I find myself trying to do trendy shit and trying to do, other stuff where I'm like, I'm reacting to things. I'm not doing something I want to be doing sustainably. Like what advice would you have for a creator who feels lost like that?
Well, do what's in your comfort zone. Like, if Oh God, I was gonna be like if you like, if you're comfortable farting in a jar, I mean, that's something you could totally do without like force,
She makes the killing.
No, I mean, no, what I mean is just like, some people force it. It's like not something that they don't want, like that's not what they do, you know?
Yeah.
Like, do some like you can start slow. Like if you've never shot porn before, don't like you people we can see nervous like we could see it when you're uncomfortable and nervous, like on the other side on the screen. Do something that you enjoy first. Like if it's POV, do that. You don't have to fit into like whatever like you think sells. It's like if you want to shoot porn and then like, you're most comfortable like, as like not showing your face, or if it's like a different just do I guess it's simplified again. Just do what you feel most comfortable doing without having to chase a trend, because if you're trying to like do something you saw somewhere else and you never did that before and you're uncomfortable, like the audience senses it and it's not going to sell as much as you think it will. But when you show up fresh face and you're like, authentic, and you're just being yourself and you're having fun, like people buy into that.
Yeah. No, that I would completely agree. Like nerves and discomfort is very hard to mask, and it does translate onto film and in camera. That's so true. Last question, I guess, and this is a little bit open-ended, but
Oh.
for the creators that that
Sorry,
are
I just like, and also like, find your community.
yes, of course.
All right, sorry to laugh.
No, perfect. I was just going to say that, like, for the creators who listened, either live today or we'll play this back on our podcast as an episode, like, what is the one thing you would want them to take away from kind of this conversation? Like, what is the core message you want to leave creators with?
Oh, find your community.
Perfect segue.
Seriously, like, just find it. It'll help you in so many ways that we've discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, Rae, thank you so much. And where can like everyone follow you and like plug all the things so that people can find you, find your work, get in touch, whatever it might be.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Rae Threat on all the social media things like Instagram, X. Right now, AP Clips only has a Twitter. So real AP Clips, REALAPCLIPS for AP Clips. If you need like support for AP Clips, I'm on AP Creator Team, APCREATORTEAM on Twitter. Not on, I think we'll start a new Instagram soon, but like, yeah. But otherwise, Rae Threat or like real AP Clips or AP Creator Team.
Love that. Thank you so much, Rae, for coming on. This was an awesome chat. I really appreciate taking the time, especially up against jet lag and all the other things.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it was a pleasure. All right, guys. So I think what I love most about just this conversation with Rae is how much it reminds us that longevity in our industry isn't just about, chasing algorithms or trends, but it's rather about building connection and community and confidence. And that can't be taken away by policy changes and whatever other shifts we end up facing. I think that Rae's career proves that visibility isn't just about being seen, but also being kind of centered and like creating your own space when the existing ones weren't built for you. And if you're listening to this thinking like, I want to do that, I want to build something sustainable and find my people and grow my business without, losing myself in the process. Well, you don't have to do that alone. This is also why we built CEO Society. It is a private community for adult creators who are just ready to move beyond survival mode and build real strategy around content and marketing and monetization and mindset and all the things. So inside this space, you're going to find, education, accountability, peers who actually get what you're going through, and also the ones who are figuring out how to scale their income and not just their burnout. So if you want to join us, it's totally free. It's private to adult creators only. You can do so at ceosociety.app. And I think it's important because this industry changes really fast, but when you have community and strategy and confidence, you can actually evolve faster. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, CEO Squad. I'll see you in the next one.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.